The DJI Osmo Pocket 3 versus the Sony ZV-E10. Which is the best sub-$1,000 camera? That's what we're going to talk about in this video, looking at real-world footage, side-by-side comparisons, and breaking down the pros and cons of each camera. And make sure you stay to the end of the video for my personal recommendation on which camera really is the best. Now, before we get started, I'll come clean. DJI did send me this camera to review, but they did not pay me to review it and no money exchanged hands. My thoughts and perspectives in this video really are my own. With that said, let's get a little more familiar with the Osmo Pocket 3. When the first version of the DJI Osmo came out, I was one of the first customers at the ripe old age of 15. I was just using a little DSLR at the time with no stabilization, so the idea of a camera with a built-in 3-axis gimbal was wild for me. I shot tons of stuff with it, including a full short film. Not that I did a great job with it by any means. I'd barely been into filmmaking for a year when I shot this. So now, some 10 years later, opening up the DJI Osmo Pocket 3 and giving it a spin has been a major nostalgia trip for me. And seeing that they've made so many incredible improvements is just hard to fathom. The fact that it has a built-in touchscreen that turns the camera on and off rather than just having to connect your phone and attach it to the camera, having a way higher quality 4K 120 FPS mode, plus way better color representation than the one that I was using when I first got started, it's just all of this put together is just insane. Honestly, anybody who buys this camera is gonna have a major head start compared to me when I was first getting started in filmmaking, thanks to all the tech that they've packed into this little camera. Now, one of the big things that a lot of people are gonna use this camera for is vlogging and travel style videos. So right now we're exploring downtown Dallas. We just moved to the area and we thought this would be a great time to test out the camera and see what it can do. So one of the really nice things about this camera is its autofocus and auto exposure settings. It's really nice to be able to just walk through downtown, talk, have a conversation with my wife and not really have to think too hard about what the camera is doing because it's just gonna figure it out for me and make it look great no matter what I do. Now, honestly, here's one of the biggest things that they don't tell you about filmmaking when you first get in, and that's sound is way more important than the visual quality of your actual film. One really huge thing that I also love about the Osmo is that you can actually connect the wireless DJI microphone directly to the camera. This is what it sounds like when I don't have the microphone on, so this is just the microphone in the Osmo. But as soon as I switch the microphone on, you can hear me super clearly. So even though there's a lot happening in the background, you can still make out my voice really clearly. That was some incredible pizza. We're gonna head down to the theater, try to catch a movie. We gotta drop the leftover pizza in the car first, but one of the really cool things about this camera, honestly, is its low light. I mean, it's pitch black out here, other than the just like street lights and that kind of stuff out here. It's also really nice that as we've wanted to just kind of stop and go into a shop or something like that, the camera is small enough that I can just shove it in my pocket for a few minutes while I have to pay for, you know, Lex's ice cream or something like that. Just makes for a really nice shooting experience, you know, because when I'm out traveling like this, I don't want to be thinking about my camera. I want to be thinking about what I'm doing, like going to the movies. You ready to go?
Yeah, I'm excited.
Okay, we got to drop the pizza off first, though. But as great as this little camera is, I do want to take a minute to compare it to another camera that's been marketed as one of the best vlogging and filmmaking cameras on the market, the Sony ZV-E10, a camera I've talked about a lot on this channel. I've gotten a ton of use out of my ZV-E10, from shooting short films, TV commercials, and more on it, all which I've documented on this channel. I've become very familiar with this camera, and it's been my recommendation for filmmakers for years. And it was heavily marketed by Sony as a vlogging camera when it first came out. But now, with the Pocket 3 on the market, is it really still the best option for people looking for a sub-$1,000 camera? Well, let's take a look at it. One of the biggest features about the ZV-E10 is its interchangeable lenses feature. Basically, with the ZV-E10, you can take the camera lens off and replace it with a different one, which gives you a ton of flexibility when it comes to dialing in a super professional shot. With the Pocket 3, you definitely don't have this, and you're just stuck with the lens that comes built into the camera. It's It's not a bad lens, don't get me wrong, but you can't upgrade it like you can with the ZV-E10. This is the 16 to 50 millimeter kit lens that comes with the Sony ZV-E10. You can see that right out of the box, it's a pretty small camera that can also fit in your pocket, but the real benefit of the ZV-E10 is that you don't have to stick with this lens. It's definitely not a super high quality lens after all. Fine for when you're first starting out, but it just doesn't have some of the professional features of a lens like this Sigma 30mm that you can just attach to the camera instead. Just take a look at this comparison footage with one shot on the kit lens versus the Sigma. This makes a huge difference when it comes to image quality, and you definitely aren't going to be able to get this kind of footage out of the Pocket 3. But that doesn't mean the ZV-E10 is therefore automatically better than the Pocket 3, not by a long shot. Let's just put two shots right up next to each other and see how they compare. Notice in the ZV-E10 footage, you definitely are getting that background blur that we normally associate with really high quality image. But it's so darn shaky. With the Osmo, you don't get all of that separation, but you have a really stable shot, which is honestly way more important when it comes to visual storytelling. Now, yeah, you can stabilize the ZV-E10, rig it out to add some weight, which takes the edge off the jitters, and then throw it on a monopod or a big gimbal, and now you've got something that really can produce some high quality footage. But now this thing is massive. You'd never be able to throw this setup in your pocket or carry it around with you downtown. And here's the thing. When it comes to shooting a movie that's gonna go on Amazon Prime or something like that, yeah, you're probably going to want to shoot with a bigger rig like this. But when it comes to vlogging and making videos online, the content of the video is way more important than getting the background blurred out or things like that. And when it comes to vlog style shooting, the ZV-E10 is honestly not a camera I can recommend over something like the Pocket 3. Here's a shot of me holding the ZV-E10 out at arm's length, the standard vlog style setup. Notice how the shot's kinda shaky. A few months ago, I made a video about a TV commercial I shot on the Sony ZV-E10, and I did a bunch of vlog style recording like this for that video. And if you hold on the camera like this for very long, you absolutely are gonna start to feel it in your arms. And when you're thinking about your arms being tired and trying not to make the footage shakier than it already is, you're not thinking about the quality of the content, which means that the end video just isn't going to be as good, even if you manage to get the background separation from a nicer lens. Now, I know what you're gonna say, but you can just turn on the active stabilization mode inside the camera. No, that thing crops into your shot by 40% and kills the background blur of the shot, which was the whole point of this camera to begin with. And Catalyst Browse is gonna do basically the same thing and is also gonna add a bunch of extra work to your editing process, which is why I really don't ever recommend using either of these features on the ZV-E10. Now, here's me holding the Pocket 3 out at arm's length. I can do this literally all day without thinking about it, and the shot is rock steady. No shakiness at all thanks to the built-in gimbal. You can see way more of what's happening around me on the Pocket 3 because the built-in lens is way wider. For my testing, the lens on the Osmo is the equivalent of about a 13mm lens on the ZV-E10, which is exactly what you want when doing vlog-style content like this. Here's another really big factor when it comes to these two cameras. The ZV-E10 costs a full $800 for just the camera and kit lens. And if you want to get another lens like the Sigma that we've been talking about, that'll be another $300. Want a mic? Add on another $100 or $200. And that's just talking about the original ZV-E10, not even the ZV-E10 Mark II. That's another $300 more expensive. I actually don't recommend that anyone buys the Mark II, but that's a topic for another video. The Osmo Pocket 3, on the other hand, is only $500, and for an extra $100, you can get the Creator Combo that comes with a microphone that connects automatically to the camera, an extended battery grip, and a bunch more, which means it's literally half the cost of the ZV-E10 with a good lens. So which really is the better camera? Well, honestly, like everything in life, it depends on how you want to use it. If you want a camera that you can shoot Hollywood quality footage off of, the ZV-E10 is definitely the way to go. But if your goal is to produce really engaging vlog content online, capture home videos, or make some awesome travel edits, honestly, the Osmo Pocket 3 is probably the better choice. I mean, personally, I'm never going to carry the Sony around when I'm traveling, even if it only has the little kit lens on it. It's just too big, hard to stabilize, and honestly, honestly not worth the hassle when I've got a smartphone in my pocket that does the job just fine. But honestly, my wife and I have been talking about traveling more, and realistically, I think there's a really good chance that the Osmo is gonna end up coming with us when we do. It's small enough that it makes sense and has a great wide-angle lens that gives some good quality boost compared to the stuff I shoot on my phone. And overall, it's just gonna let me capture the trip better. Plus, since it's got great autofocus and auto exposure features, I don't really even have to think about the camera settings at all, which is exactly what I want when I'm out trying to have a good time. And yeah, if it's the only camera that I had, I wouldn't hesitate to shoot a short film or something like that on it. Narrative filmmaking is way more about the story that you're telling rather than the camera that you're using anyway, so as long as you've got a good heart-touching story, you don't really need to worry all that much about technical stuff like how blurred out your background is and things like that. So with all that said, these are both some great cameras and you really can't go wrong with either. But if you're gonna be shooting more vlog and travel style content, go ahead and pick up the Osmo. And if you're gonna try and shoot TV commercials and bigger stuff like that, you can't go wrong with the ZV-E10. I'll drop the links to purchase either camera in the description below. Now stop watching YouTube videos, pick up a camera, and get out there and make a film.